Love, that ever-flowing liquid fire of light, ever-expanding and illuminating truth, which is always revealed with wisdom, a spiritual nutrient necessary for vitality that is maintained through selflessness, a filter of ether that aids purity, which is love. Love, a limitless paper lantern floating into infinity on the intentions and actions of initiates of the mysteries. Welcome, fellow Phoenixes, to the Spiritual Phoenix Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Cessna, and together we are the Spiritual Phoenix. The intent of this show isn't to tell you what to think, but to get you to think and originally articulate yourself in a way that is uplifting. We are the artists of our lives, and today is a blank canvas. Let's collectively create a better tomorrow. And now I'd like to get into, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on what we're grateful for first. Today, I'm grateful that I've gotten back in the habit of going to the gym. I went and swam a quarter of a mile yesterday. Then I did yoga and meditated. This morning, I went and I did some Tai Chi. I did some yoga. I meditated, and then I shot some basketball. And then I also got to take my dog for a walk this morning. And as somebody who's never really been a fan of exercise, it's kind of nice to be actively enjoying that kind of release again. Now I'd like to get into a couple of quotes for today. All things come to him who waits, provided he knows what he is waiting for. And that was said by Woodrow Wilson. Darling, replied Valentine, has not the Count just told us that all human wisdom was contained in these two words, wait and hope? And that was said by Alexandre Dumas. And I'd like to get into today's topic now, which is waiting for love. There's this concept that you have to look for love or search for love. And in my experience, the relationships that I've actually been involved in typically come from just doing what I'm doing, and then somebody comes along and they suit me. They're fitted for me. It kind of goes into the concept of if you lose somebody somewhere, if you go looking for them, you actually might not find them. They might go to where you were. It might be this perpetual cycle of just spinning your wheels. It also goes into the concept of like a butterfly or something like that. If you sit there still, a butterfly could just land on you. But if you go out chasing it, it's gonna run from you. Or even like, I use this analogy not in like a primal sense, but just because it's a very good analogy. But like in hunting, if you went out and you hunted something down all the time, it would run from you unless you were very cautious. Now, if you sit in a tree stand and you wait for something to just come across your path, then you're set up into that position. Recently, I had this encounter with a female friend who I have feelings for, and I expressed those feelings, and she's not at that stage yet in her life. She said that she just needs time to work on herself, and there was a time where that would have been devastating to me. Through the things that I've been through in recovery and whatnot, though, I found that very respectable to say that I need to work on me, and I genuinely think that that's what she means. Like, she wants to work on herself and develop herself better. And even if it doesn't, it doesn't mean that I need to go out and run and look for somebody else. I'm very fickle when it comes to who my attention goes to. And I have a certain type of person, and it's not that it's always the same type of person that I look for, but there's a certain mindset, and I can find physical beauty anywhere. There's lots of physical beauty in the world. But as far as that mental, internal beauty, which is what I'm looking for, and somebody who's willing to develop themselves, grow, respect me, allow me to grow, who's not going to be confining, controlling, etc. That's the rare thing. Physical beauty will age, and internal beauty can continue to flourish and grow and develop and become more refined. And that's what I'm looking for, that lasting beauty. Um, I've always been one of those people that liked that kind of stuff, but I would get hung up on the physical beauty. And then I would settle, or I would make compromises. And then those compromises that I made for certain behaviors that I didn't like would end up festering inside of me, creating resentments, creating all this turmoil. The beauty of this situation now is I'm comfortable enough in myself, and I accept myself enough to say, I'm okay. I don't need somebody else to complete me. I complete me. I'm going to continue to develop myself and just focus on me and let whoever it is that's supposed to be there come into my life. And that's the other thing too. Today I'm not hopeless to think nobody can love me, nobody can care about me, nobody will ever want to date me. I'm by no means the biggest catch out there. I do have a lot to offer, and that confidence gives me hope that my higher power will present somebody into my life when I'm ready and when it's the right time for me. So I'm just going to accept it and roll with it. I was going to write the Tao Oracle card description for the card today for my tarot website that I do, or my tarot Instagram and Facebook page. But the card was already drawn, the description was already written up. So I did the next card in successive order, which was number 2. And I had already had this topic kind of picked out, like waiting for love. And then this card came up, and it was so fitting that I kind of put the description over here to read you some of it. It's not the full description. If you want the full description, go to Spiritual Phoenix Tarot at on Facebook or on Instagram. Actually, the full description's on Facebook. The Instagram one's partial as well. And it's 2, the receptive. The receptive is yielding and passive. It is the sign of devotion, the yin principle that complements and balances the creative, the yang principle. Her symbols are earth, the cow, in contrast to the dragon of heaven. Together, they comprise a complete cosmology, out of which life is brought into being, into which it returns at death. In human life, the most obvious manifestation of the yin and yang is the relationship between the female and the male. However, the interdependence of these principles is also present in the relationship between parent and child, teacher and student, guru and disciple, and within each of us in the apparent duality of our sensory, physical experience of life, and the more subtle spiritual experiences, or the body and the soul of being. Receptivity is dependent on the dynamic spark of creative inspiration to be activated into productivity, just as creativity is dependent on and nourished by the fertile ground of emptiness. When the receptive complements the creative, it functions as a womb, an empty canvas on which an infinite variety of creations can be made manifest. This image is best represented as Mother Nature in that she nurtures and supports all living things, generously bestowing form and beauty. Receptivity is a fine balance. It is docile, open, nurturing, while being intensely devoted and strong enough to persevere through even the most difficult of times. When this yin principle is in a negative manifestation, it envies, complains, and competes for authority, generating chaos and dissolution. Or else, like a couch potato, does nothing but wallow in passivity and indolence, expecting every whim to be catered to. Now, the positive elements of receptivity is something that I'm slowly learning. I typically have fallen into the negative elements of receptivity and just being that couch potato. Or just being so aggressive when I should be patient. I'm trying to learn that ebb and flow, and that waiting concept doesn't just apply to romantic love as well. It applies to loving myself, loving my endeavors, loving my creative process. Like with this podcast, I'd like it to grow more, but I also have to be receptive and appreciate right where it's at. With my business that I'm building, I have to just kind of do the footwork and build stuff up and not be in a position to necessarily sell things. I enjoy the creative process of it. So right now, I'm creating something in that womb of receptivity. My business is receptive to what I want to put into it. But if I put so much into it that I lose my peace, it's not going to be what I want my business to be, which is something that brings me joy, something that I enjoy doing. They say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I love what I do, but I still have to work on it. But it doesn't have to be work, if that makes sense. I really think that I've discussed all these concepts as much as I really can at this point. So you can follow me on social media at Spiritual Phoenix. I do offer free daily tarot readings at Spiritual Phoenix Tarot on Instagram and on Facebook. I started a side podcast of 1 minute long poetry called the Phoenix Poetry Podcast. Currently it's only on iTunes, but I will be adding it to other services in the future. You can visit my website at thespiritualphoenix.com. I love, respect, and appreciate all of you. Love and light. Namaste. I'm going to put this episode on the pyre. Peace.
Don't believe. Don't follow. Do not consume. Do not watch. Largely what I'm talking about here is reclaiming experience. This is what's been taken from us. It's a self-advancing, self-expanding, self-defining process, and it takes no prisoners.
The real world isn't a spiritual world, it isn't a material world, it isn't an empty world, it isn't a solid world, it's simply